Hello Reddit. What's the most disturbing secret you've been told? My aunt, who I don't speak to anymore, was talking to me about my granddad who died when I was 2, saying how he loved taking me to the park and hanging out with me and stuff like that. When she was babysitting me, my mum then explained to me a few years later that he was a pedophile and had done stuff to all of his kids and my aunt's daughter, but that he wasn't ever allowed near me. So basically, my aunt used to let my granddad, who was a pedophile, hang out and let me stay with him for a day without my parents ever knowing. In 1994, an retired judge told me he and 2 childhood friends were responsible for the accidental death of a classmate down by a creek where they were playing one day. He had pretty much kept it to himself for a lifetime. A guy I hooked up with in college had a breakdown when we were blackout drunk and essentially admitted to killing a guy who had taken advantage of his little sister and burying the body. He was a total wiener of a guy who was always trying to hype himself up and exaggerates to be a bigger, better, manlier person, so I didn't think much of it at the time. The timing would have made him a teenager and the man a full-fledged adult. It just felt like another bullshit story he was always telling. But sometimes I think back and wonder if there's any truth to it. I found it out myself. My immediate older sister is cheating on her husband with my oldest sister's husband. Both the couple seem to be in a happy and healthy marriage with kids. WTF. My dad was introduced to and taught how to do various drugs by his dad. They once got really high together and had sex. My mom told me this because I had just came out to my dad as gay and he didn't respond in the way I had hoped. Happy Father's Day. My father had 6 children from 4 different women. One he knocked up when he was married to his first wife. He put the child up for adoption in secret so his wife wouldn't know. The only people who knew were his mom and dad and the mother of the child's family. He lied to his current wife about the child when his second wife found the papers in his office while they were going through a divorce. 30 years later, 23 and reunited all, and he found out quickly the secret wasn't really so secret. Everyone in the family knew and just didn't say anything. The child put up for adoption was me. What really sucks for him is, if he had just been open about it, it may have saved him many years of pain. My cousin had her first daughter with an old friend from high school after a one-night stand. Turns out he is married and doesn't want the wife to know. My newest baby cousin is now about 3, I believe. No idea if his wife ever found out, but I'm the only one my cousin told. Not as crazy as others, but I found out that my dad is actually my stepdad and my real dad left immediately after I was born 18 years and still haven't met the guy. I've told the story on here before, but a girl I worked with once told me about her first love. They dated for a while, fell madly in love, and lost their virginities to each other. Her family situation was weird. Her parents weren't married, but when her dad was in town, her parents were a couple, and when he wasn't they weren't. Well, one of the times that he was in town, she introduced him to her boyfriend. They got along and got to talking, and he asked about the kid's family. After the kid went home, her dad told her she couldn't see him anymore. Turns out he was the kid's father. She'd unknowingly fallen in love with and lost her virginity to her half-brother. And yes, I know this also happened on an episode of House. I was told this story back in '99 before that show was a thing. My classmate in high school, I thought he was pretty weird, but also a nice guy. Turned out he's bipolar, and he manages it with medication. But one time he was off it, and he lost control in an argument with his little brother. He ended up beating the living crap out of the poor kid. Once he regained his senses and realized what he did, he tried to kill himself. I'm not sure how, he didn't specify. His dad was also an abusive drunk douchebag who occasionally beat him up. He told the story pretty calmly. I really hope he's doing much better now. My wife told me that one of her cousins is actually a baby bought from another family member who was too young to keep the baby. Not really a secret, but it was something told to me once and then never discussed again. close family friend had blocked some memories from her childhood, during which her grandfather did horrible things to her and her brother. She was fighting brain cancer as an adult and attributed her sickness in part to the repressed memories. I was told what happened to her with details and never shared it with anyone else. Use your imagination. It's worse than that. She died from cancer. People like that grandfather should be castrated and thrown to the wolves. Good friend of mine told me his father molested his sister. I think I was more shocked he didn't share this sooner. It wasn't until he had kids that it all came out. Family secrets are dark. This girl I worked with over the summer told me how she burnt down her high school, and we worked at a summer camp. None of the parents knew the girl watching their kids was a fucking arsonist. Girl I knew had just gotten fired from her job and was planning on jumping off a bridge. The job meant everything to her. I talked to her over 4 hours on the phone pleading with her, and she eventually decided not to jump. So she went home and shot herself instead. My high school sweetheart told me he had sex with his older half-sister several times, and that it was the most thrilling thing he's ever done. This was after he repeatedly asked me to roleplay that I was his sister, and I grew suspicious and made jokes that he must have a crush on his half-sister. Boy, was I onto something. Bonus secret: I dated a mutual friend years later, and he offhandedly told me he also slept with that guy's sister, and I noped out so quick. Edit: I originally used the word stepsister instead of half-sister because I'm dumb and didn't know the difference. Totally different story when it's actual blood siblings. I felt I needed to correct it. Someone I know many years ago was involved with a gang in a nearby big city. At one point she was held captive and raped by someone she knew. Her gang buddies found out, and that man went missing, never to be seen again. Talking over 30 years ago, and I don't know any specific details, which I'm glad about. I made an R4R post asking about secrets. A woman messaged me from a throwaway account, deleted already. As a girl, she had sleepovers at her house all the time. Her father was well liked by parents and would spoil them with tequila and nail polish and whatnot. What actually happened is that come bedtime, her father would drug the girls, undress them, pose them with himself for each other, and take photos. If she didn't keep bringing girls over, her father would abuse her instead. I found that to be pretty disturbing. Or it could have been made up. That would be pretty disturbing too. Chicago detective told me how they would wrap a dry cleaner bag over someone's face to get them to sign a confession. My best friend told me that everyone loves her sister better, and so do her parents. I thought, okay, I understand, until she told me that her parents constantly call her fat and blame her for their bad relationship. They also don't seem to give a shit that she has had multiple strokes over the past month, or that she's so skinny that she should be eating more. I love her so much, and this freaked me out so much because her parents seem so nice, but to only her they are so toxic. I will always be there for her. She doesn't deserve that.